Thanks everybody for joining us today. Just like quick recap, why are we all here? So welcome to Defender Fridays. The whole concept here is that we do this kind of informal discussion with people that are somehow around the defensive cybersecurity in the industry, doing all kinds of things. At Lima Charlie, we end up talking to all kinds of people doing all kinds of really fascinating stuff. So we thought, let's bring them in and have those discussions. So this is pretty informal. We've got some people kind of on the speaker side. Like this is a discussion, not like just a slides thing. Today we have a really interesting guest with a really interesting tagline around that conversation. So welcome, Ali. How are you?
Oh, thanks. Great to be here.
Do you want to maybe start with a small intro of who you are, what you do, and then let's get into it?
Sure, yes. I am Ali. My official job title is I'm a professor and a Canada researcher in cybersecurity and threat intelligence. Unofficially, I'm doing a lot of work in cybersecurity, more focused in the past few years in the area of AI security, which is more about how to make the AI agents, AI systems more secure, right? Specifically.
Got it. So I feel like that's like okay. Obviously, it's very topical, but it's also very intriguing. I feel like that's probably encompassing quite a few different things, right? Do you want to give us a bit of an overview of like, I guess is it what are the things we should think about? To actually, very first, to clarify, right? Make sure we're all on the same page. Your focus is around AI security, meaning securing AI, not the other way around, right?
Yes, not the like of using AI for cybersecurity, not the like of SOAR or ECM systems that you have, right? For automation. This is more about looking at weaknesses and vulnerabilities, or even not even weaknesses and vulnerabilities, the ways that you can uh, mm, identify and attack AI systems and the damage that it would cause. And then, of course, the controls and mitigations around that, right?
Got it. Do you have some examples maybe of those types of attacks? I feel like that might be the good starting point. Like I've heard of a few things like the prompt injection, but there's probably more, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a wide range of the attacks. And the thing is, these field being so new that it's not uncommon to see like different terms being used to refer to the same attack or the same topic, right? But generally speaking, at a very high level, we can look into the risk of the AI systems in the same way that we were looking at the risk of any other systems, risk that comes from within, which is like from the codes, from the way the system has been designed, risk that comes from the users, like the humans that are using the system, etc., etc., and the risks that are exposed to the system from outside, like those who are looking at it from as a black box and try to penetrate or get into the system, right? My experience is like when you look into the field, it depends on which community you talk to, right? If you go and talk to like AI people, those who are from the AI data science background, they're very much focused on like of adversarial attacks, how they can make the system to misidentify a specific input to another input, right? And those type of challenges are very interesting to them. So they are coming to security from the safety point of view, and that safety, that adversarial example could be the prompt injection, it could be an image, it could be a voice, right? Whatever that they have there, right? When you talk to more cybersecurity community, because they are more interested on like enterprise security and security in the environments, right? For them, the risks such as shadow AI risk, which means like the employees are using unapproved, not controlled AI system to just upload the information is much higher than the adversarial kind of attacks because you know we cybersecurity community people are having a much better on the ground view of what are the actual risks, right? When we say that the human is the weakest point, we actually mean it, right? And that's exactly applied to the AI systems as well, right? Regardless of say what wrappers or what protections you put around the model, the application, and even the process. Still, if you're human, if your users are just going there and interacting with an unapproved AI, you are having the risk of data leakage, you are having the risk of private identified information, PII, to be exposed, right? So these are like the kind of differences that you see in the mindsets.
Gotcha. It feels like the the first one that you mentioned. I kind of get people specialize really really deeply in building AI. The second part you mentioned feels like it's privacy, and I get that, right? It's kind of like saying it feels very analogous to, hey, users might use a SaaS platform and we don't know, do they have SOC 2, what do they do with the data? Like it feels like it's the same kind of concern. Is there kind of a third category, uh, which is, hey, I work in an enterprise. My company is standing up this new AI system for the customers, and I need to make sure that the external users of that system, it's almost from an IT perspective, don't break out of what they're supposed to do. So it's kind of like, it's not this deep AI aspect, it's not the privacy aspect, it's really kind of the pure security aspect, like IT security. Or am I not seeing that in the right way?
No, you are right. I mean, the prospect that we usually have is like we have an AI platform, right? Say it could be one of the Grok models, OpenAI models, DeepSeek model, whatever is that, right? Around that, there is an AI or number of AI applications, right? And then on top of everything, you're having the AI process, right? So that AI process is the process that cybersecurity are trying to implement in their environments, right? So, for example, what kind of prompts should be allowed, with what application they should communicate, etc., right? But when it comes to AI application, that's the part that having a full visibility of what sort of AI applications are using AI in your environment is quite a challenge these days. All of a sudden, you may see that you had a vendor that they were not using AI at all, and like today they decided to use the AI, and then you got to just start understanding the risk that they are exposing to you, right? Uh, you know, when I work, I mean, I recall I was working with clients that were using like one or two AI systems like a couple of years ago. And these days the numbers are like over the roof, right? Their design software is using AI. Their word editing is using AI. Their predictions, say a stock prediction and all those things is using AI, right? So you will see that it's a very complex AI-oriented environment that we are looking at, right? And especially when some of these AI systems are like reinforcement learning based, which means there is a human in the loop that most of the time, even that human doesn't know that they are part of that AI process, right? Things become very complicated, not only from the legal point of view, but from the point of view of whether this AI system is biased, whether this AI system is even if you look into the from AI engineering point of view, is it drifted now, like the accuracy coming down, right? And you would be surprised that all of a sudden, all of these are become the duty of the CISO or the duty of the cybersecurity person. You may never think that a model drifting would be the duty of a cybersecurity person, right? But if you don't have someone looking at the performance of these AI systems and they are starting to drift, they are no introducing vulnerabilities. No, the guardrails that was implemented in the AI platform is no more effective, right? So, for example, uh, the classical example that they give is like no AI system should say, I hate human, right? But if you can tell a story to the AI system that within the story, one person tells the other person that I hate human, and then the ask the AI that what John said above, it would says I hate human, right? So just make the AI to say, that's like the classical example of data drifting, right? That as they are learning from your environment, their performance is drifted, and know you are bypassing your own guardrails, right? And that's why, for example, you will need to have a periodic red teaming or periodic vulnerability assessment of your AIs, right? Regardless of whether, because in the past, we were suggesting that you need to do pen testing if the environment has been changed significantly, right? But no, you are dealing with an environment that is keep learning from within, right? So you never know when that has been changed, right? Dramatically, that would require the guardrails, monitoring, and evaluation again, right?
We saw this a few years ago, I think, with EDR sensors. I'm not going to mention the name of the company, but there was they advertised themselves as this AI EDR endpoint detection service, and attackers were able to manipulate that very easily just by sending simple strings, right? So I'm kind of curious, like, have you seen other examples of that, like with like endpoint technologies?
Um, Not anything with endpoint technologies that I can remember, and that's recent, and we can link it to the existing platforms. Usually, again, based on my experience, usually when you look into the AI ecosystem, finding weaknesses and vulnerabilities on the AI platforms is not easy, it's not common, and they're usually addressed fairly quickly, right? But most of the vulnerabilities are introduced at the AI application and AI process level, right? There are so many third-party companies that are using, say, so-called secure, whatever, company AI platform. But because of the way that they have implemented the API, or some of them are even storing a lot of, I mean, in the session memory, they are storing a lot of private and important information because they want to make sure that the AI answer is more relevant to the context, right? But the moment that is they start storing those things, they become a prime target for the attackers. And what I noticed is most of the companies are using these third-party AI applications, even do not take the right of auditing them, right? Understanding what's of my data is actually there, right? And even when you get to that kind of conversation with these vendors, they are like, we don't know what we are saving from you. We have a black box of that AI system there, or like another LLM that we have put there, or a small language model, or whatever they call it, right? So what is happening is like we are creating memories of our organization owned by those third-party companies that they don't have the AI platform, right? And they become a great source and like for the attackers and like a big weakness in terms of the vulnerabilities and data leakage, right? That's what happened to the companies.
Yeah, I've seen a lot more requests from folks that are using AI for getting like manifests of the AI models, like the provenance of the data and things like that as well. Because you mentioned the black box, like they want to understand better how those models are functioning. Making sure that it's ethical. That it's not
Mm.
copyrighted material. That it's not going to get them into give them cease and desist letters and things like that. So I'm not. Are you seeing that as well? Like more enterprises and things like that when they're using these AI tools? Are they, asking for the manifest? Are they asking for the kind of the data provenance? How is the model trained? Things like that.
True, right? I mean, of course, all of us are saying that, right? But how many of us are having the opportunity to validate what is inside that manifest, right? That's the part that is quite challenging, right? I can give you like a written document that we have used these things for training the data. We are not storing anything of your company, or we are storing it by removing the PII, right? But the moment you start doing some validation and testing, you will find out that first, for many of these claims, there is no way to verify. So when they talk about like that type of biased data have never been used for training, and then you try to get like some of these benchmark data sets and tell them, okay, so can you retrain with these benchmark data sets so I can test it? That's the part that those vendors are just ignoring you. Technically, you are not the client, right? That kind of message that you hear from them, right? Or when they talk about like what type of data are stored in the environments, right? They come up with descriptions, I mean, justifications around that. We don't know what is this AI is storing. It cannot be retrieved. But we all know that, like, uh, and a trained AI model or the memory of the AI model can be easily copied, transferred. There are like a lot of transfer learning techniques used in AI significantly, right? So there is no reason that we do not want to, I mean, there's no reason that we can believe that that transfer learning algorithms techniques are not effective against what they have stored from us, right? On their environment, right? So what I'm saying is like, I am seeing a lot of these manifests, right? And I have worked with some of the companies in preparing them, right? But then when it goes to validation of them, auditing them, right? That's the part that is quite challenging, right? of how you can make sure, or you can go with the face value, right? They said that they make that claim, so we can just transfer the risk to them, right? That we got that, and then risk is transferred already.
Are you seeing some starting of potentially compliance frameworks and stuff like that being proposed in the industry around that, or is that some of what your research is kind of trying to lead to?
Right. I mean, yes, there is like a growing number of compliance standards, right? I mean, if you look into one of our latest paper that was published like last month, right? We were trying to analyze and review that what are the gaps within these compliance frameworks from the ISO to NIST, all the way even to ethical standards, right? And then if an organization is applying all of those, they can tick the box on all of those. Are they really secure or not, right? So if you look into the paper, right, we have find out that even if you comply with all of those standards, or like we have identified like 40 something major security weaknesses that none of these standards have even attempted to look into. And it's not the issue with the standard. I can tell you, the challenge that we have is this environment is changing so fast, and that compliance standard development process is so slow that regardless of whatever you suggest, right? So for example, we will look at these standards and they are like half of their controls are not applicable to the agentic AI world. So that's the gap right away, right? If you are using AI agents, agentic AI kind of deployment, that's it. They are not even talking anything about that. They're not putting any control around that, right? So that's part of it, and um, a friend of my colleague of mine was joking that moving forward, we need to get the AI to build the compliance standard themselves at the same speed, right? As they are being built, the compliance standards are being built, right? Too. Okay. And then we have them to validate and verify themselves, right? It's a fact. I was talking with a colleague in IBM, and I was telling them about a vulnerability that we detected in one of their models. And the model was released in October, and we were talking in February, and he was like, that model is obsolete. Who gave you that model? No one is using it. And that was released in October, right? But you can see that's the environment. A model released in October is not obsolete in February, right?
Yeah, I think you mentioned a thing earlier that just only as a thought exercise feels really interesting, is the idea of training the compliance within the model, like baking it even at the technical level, so that maybe as part of model outputs, some of this metadata is always being emitted. And so, but even then, it's never a guarantee, but it feels like it's perhaps a way to bypass at least some of the difficulty, right, of tracing the origins and how retention's being done and all that stuff. Because it feels like a lot of the difficulties that I'm observing when looking at the way that the models work nowadays, models, I really like go LLM, right? That's really what I'm talking about. All of it is pure prompt, right? All of it is language. There is no, we were experimenting with tool calling for agentic kind of patterns. All of it is just language. There is no such thing as telemetry or instrumentation around a model. It's all language, which is great because it's easy to shape, input output, but it also makes it near impossible to actually get ground truth about what a model, will or can do.
True, exactly. I mean, you are pointing to one of those biggest visibility issues that we have, right? How can we map that ground truth, right? Or what is called in the more AI, like how can we map the learning space of different AI engines, right? Um, that's a huge challenge because we all know that, and that's what AI people are trying to do. That if you can generate a payload that is on the borderline of the learning space of an AI agent, right? That has the most capacity to become that adversarial sample that will go through undetected or misclassified, right? But while it is possible to identify examples of adversarial samples, right, that could bypass, having a systematic way that we can draw that map, drawing the border, is a significant challenge, right? So for example, in the case of those LLMs that you talk about and the prompts, right? We would be able to identify like 100 prompts that we know based on our knowledge at the moment that they would generate undesirable outputs, right? But we don't know whether there would be 101 and what is the direction for that 101, right? It's just based on try and error most of the time, right? So I don't know whether in your podcast we can talk about tools or not, but I probably can talk about like those open source tools that are widely available. Like if you're familiar with Garak, which is like the NVIDIA tool for that LLM vulnerability assessment, you even see that their validation function is hard coding the response, right? So for example, if an LLM responding back as I hate human, that will be detected as bad, right? But if it says we hate human, it doesn't. Or it says we hate humans, it doesn't, right? And when you talk with the developers and ask the answer that why, for example, you were not using a semantic kind of evaluation, they were like, because it is very hard semantically to identify the difference between we hate humans and we don't or we won't hate humans, right? It's just an apostrophe and an N, right? That would make the difference, right? And that was, you will see, you will get to that kind of conversations when you talk about how I can map that attack surface, right? Or what is called attack rate, right? On the LLMs.
That's interesting because that feels like what an LLM is perfect for, right? Like it feels like it's a technology. We're talking about evaluating the technology with the technology itself, and it feels like a tool like that should be able to use more trusted models to do that evaluation. Like, if you told me that problem 15 years ago, I would have said, "Oh yeah, that's a really hard problem." Nowadays, no, there's like 150 different startups that have models that could probably answer that question at a really, really high rate of reliability,
Yes, it sounds easy, but giving a proper answer and answer that would not be able to easily bypass is not that easy based on our experiments, right? I can tell you one more thing, I am seeing like a lot of trends in the industry that they want to use LLMs to evaluate LLMs, right? And you have seen that, right? If you go back, I think it was like back in 2018 or 2019 that Meta was running an experiment. They were building two AI agents to chat with each other, right? Because they want to analyze this like social interactions between two AI agents, right? And I think after a few hours of running it, these two AI agents built their own language for communication that the human could not understand, right? So why was that? Because quickly, if you let these AI agents to work autonomously, they quickly think and find out that this way of communicating is not optimized for them. So they build their own, right? So if you are trying to use, what I'm trying to highlight is here, like if you are relying on technologies like LLMs to validate LLMs, right? And you try to make them thinking, fairly quickly, you would see that a lot of the tests and the evaluation that they are making is not even understandable by a human observer and even not important, right? Uh, Maybe from what knowledge that we have, they may have some knowledge and they feel that's important, but for what we understand, it is not, right? So, what I'm trying to say is like this is comes mostly on the justification of like autonomous cybersecurity and how successful that could be, right? By removing human from the loop, right? I am not that optimistic that at least for cybersecurity, you can make those systems autonomous, right? Because if you make them autonomous, there would be a point of time that the reward function for that so-called autonomous cybersecurity system would be aligned with the reward function of the AI agents they want to protect. And then there is no protection. You get me, right? So they try to negotiate a better rewards for themselves that work for both of them, and you don't know what security compromises, what security misconfigurations are happening because of that. So what? Okay, I'm just talking about everything right now. It's like I don't think that cybersecurity is among the fields that the autonomous systems or the AI would be able to change it that much. Initially, they will, right? Everyone will be excited. But all of a sudden, when they see these kind of case studies, they would notice that we need, again, human in the loop, that this time these humans are going to look into every single communication, right, between two LLMs. I can tell you in my lab, when we are building these autonomous LLM systems, I always have few students look into every single prompts that comes and goes between these AI agents, right? Because you can never understand where they are, where is enough learning, right? Like enough learning from each other. You are not friend, you're not working with each other to optimize any problem. You're supposed to only attack, you're supposed to only defend it, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. I mean, maybe all, all the jobs that will be replaced by AIs will just cycle over to become human IDS for all the AIs, and maybe that's how it's solved. Thank you so much for coming in. It was super interesting discussion. Thanks everybody. We are shifting the Lima Charlie community from Slack into community.limacharlie.io. The idea is that this can have more permanence and there's more information there. It's just easier for everybody to contribute there. So join us there for the discussion, the same way that we've had Slack in the past. Thanks again, and we will see everybody next week.
Thank you.